Imagine they brought back old ass Aunt May from the Raimi movies.
She's alive.
I know, but she's like 94 or
Yeah,
something.
that's crazy. If they brought back both Aunt Mays.
Into the Aunt May verse.
Into the Aunt May verse.
Topher Grace is back as Venom.
Imagine they brought him back.
I like being bad.
How would you really feel? Okay, as a Spider-Man 3 guy, like, do you like Spider-Man 3?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like Spider-Man 3. I don't think it's as bad as... I mean, it's really bad, but I enjoy it, like, for what it is.
It just didn't work.
I will take Spider-Man 3 over any of the Amazing Spider-Man movies. And Venom.
Wow. And, okay, I would take it over Venom for sure.
Okay.
But we're not here to talk about Venom and Spider-Man 3 or The Amazing Spider-Man. We're here to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. Did you enjoy the movie?
For me, after watching it twice, I think it's the best Marvel movie, like Marvel MCU movie.
Really?
Yeah, I know that's high praise, but like...
I don't know if I'd go that far. Because I was debating that too. Because I was like, is this better than Endgame? Because that's like my ceiling
Yeah,
for
I think
Marvel movies.
that's my ceiling.
I don't think it was better than Endgame, but I will say that I had a better time in the theater than any other theater experience I've ever had.
You have to watch this in the theater.
You have to watch this in the theater, and you have to watch it in IMAX, and
Watch it in a packed theater with like
Yeah.
a bunch of fans.
because we went opening day, like Thursday at like 4:00.
Yeah.
Which-
Literally the first
which
show.
was,
We
like,
were
the
the
first
first
show.
we were the first few people on Earth.
We were
to
some
see
of the first people on Earth to see the reveals, and I guess we'll just talk about it. Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in the movie.
That's
doesn't
not real. That's
sound
not
real.
real.
I feel like we're saying that, and we're part of the media farce that they put us all through for the last year.
Oh yeah, the marketing was perfect because they teased here's the villains from those guys' movies, but they never outright said
Yeah.
Toby and Andrew were back. Andrew Garfield capped for like a solid year.
Andrew Garfield, okay. Andrew Garfield did his best performance of his career
It wasn't
in
even in a-
media. Yeah,
it
it wasn't
wasn't
even in a
even a
movie.
movie.
It was in media appearances. I'll show some clips, but there are some clips of him just being like, "Stop fucking asking me."
This Spider-Man Photoshop thing. Listen, at this point, people just I'm done. Like, we'll all find out when the movie comes out, and we'll either be very disappointed, or we'll be very happy, or like someone will say, "I told you so," and another person will say, "But I told you so." We'll all find out. I'm sorry in advance.
If I was Andrew Garfield and I wasn't in No Way Home, I'd be pissed because I got fired from Spider-Man.
Yeah, and we talked about that too, where like it's so obvious now that they were gonna be in the movie.
Yeah.
Why would they bring back the Lizard, Sandman, Electro, and not Toby and Andrew? They had money for
who
CGI
plays the
Alfred
Lizard?
Molina.
Oh yeah.
Well, they de-aged him. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, it looks so good. I didn't even notice.
No,
that
I wasn't even thinking about it. If you didn't tell me, I would be like, hey, this guy looks really good for a 55-year-old man. But
He's
no.
like 60.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's like older than that.
Insert Wikipedia screenshot.
You know the Superior Spider-Man exists, right? And he's
Yeah, it's like-
Dr. Octopus
yeah.
Spider-Man.
There are stupider Spider-Man. We could talk about A Million Ants.
Oh. Wait, isn't that just from Rick and Morty?
Yeah. But no, there is a version of Spider-Man where he's like 10,000 ants Spider-Man. You know about this?
No, I don't know what this is. I thought this was from Rick and Morty.
There's a version of Spider-Man where he doesn't get bitten by one spider. He gets eaten alive by like a colony of spiders. And then they all gain his consciousness. And they decide to form themselves into the shape of Peter Parker. And it's like they believe they are Peter Parker. Have you seen Nightmare Before Christmas?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Remember Oogie Boogie?
Yeah.
That's what
That's what you
Spider-Man
look
is, where he's like a big bag of ants or a big bag of spiders. So the movie kicks off.
Mysterio reveals.
The second Far From Home ends. That's when this movie starts.
I like when movies do that. When
I
it's,
was
like,
really
back
surprised.
to back.
Yeah, I was really surprised they did that because a lot of Marvel movies, since there are so many in between, it feels like there's always a bunch of time in between movies. Like for example, like Iron Man 2 and 3.
Oh yeah, the gap is like there was a whole movie's worth of content.
Yeah, I think the Avengers was between
Yeah.
2 and 3. Peter's life sucks. Everybody knows he's Spider-Man, and he's being investigated for the murder of Mysterio. Which, can I just say, why don't people trust him? Like, this is kind of piggybacks off of like Thunderbolt Ross asking the Avengers to obey the law. But I just want to say, like, Peter Parker saved the world. why doesn't anybody believe him? Like, nobody just comes out and he's like, did you kill Mysterio? He's like, no.
Well, I think
Mysterio's evil.
I was gonna say this for later, but like this movie is the most. Well, if we did that, there would be no movie.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of let's just hand wave this.
Yeah.
In order to get the movie done.
You want to know the worst example of that? This is after Peter actually captures all the villains that show up, and Doctor Strange is like, I'm gonna end the movie at the 30-minute mark. I'm gonna send all of them back to their timeline. And then it's gonna be really easy. We'll wrap it up really easy. I'm gonna use this.
The box, the MacGuffin,
the big MacGuffin box, and I'm gonna send all these guys back to their universe, and then everything will be fine. And then Peter's like, "Hold on,
we can save them.
We can save them." Initially, I was like, "That's the dumbest thing."
At first, you're like, don't release the villains, but then by the end of the movie, you're on board with it.
You're on board with it because this Tom Holland Spider-Man. Did they ever touch on the idea that he's like he always wants to save people even if they're bad, or he always wants to like rehabilitate them? Has that ever been talked about in the other Tom Holland movies? I feel like it was talked about a little bit in Homecoming with the Vulture.
Oh yeah, he does try to save the Vulture, even though like near the end of that movie.
Yeah,
but it's never like explicit. That's what I liked about this movie, because like, what are some of the complaints you have about people have about the Tom Holland Spider-Man? It's like he doesn't get beat up enough.
Right.
He doesn't really know like the whole Uncle Ben dying, and he has to learn that. Oh, with great power comes great responsibility. That doesn't really factor that much into his character.
Also, Tony Stark just gives him everything. He doesn't have to really create any technology or weapons for himself. But that's completely...
Yeah, this movie is like...
Every single thing you said, the movie addresses.
Yeah.
Because there's a point in the movie where all the Spider-Man are together, and all they have to do is create these cures, basically, for all these villains. And it's amazing. That scene where they're all in the
team
lab.
up, and then
they talk about Toby.
They made Toby smarter than he was in the original movies. You know, like he was doing a cure for the Green Goblin.
Well, he is 20 years older.
That's true. Yeah.
And he's more experienced, which I was really happy they addressed that too.
This movie just filled with like really cool little moments. Like
it is filled with cool moments, and one thing we were both worried about this was that are they going to respect the franchises that the Spider-Man come from? Are they going to retcon all their storylines? Are they going to continue the story? Like, we were really worried about that. Like, we were talking about Doc Ock and how at the end of Spider-Man 2, he is redeemed. And are they going to address that, or is he just going to be mustache-twirling evil Doc Ock the whole time? But he wasn't. They addressed the fact that he had the chip in the back of his head. Yeah,
like the plastic chip.
And they actually fixed the chip in the back of his head, and he helps the Spider-Man at the end of the movie. Like, he helps them defeat the other villains and cure the other villains.
That's what's good about this movie. Like, every character, they felt true to what like they were.
Yeah.
Like, Green Goblin was
a two-faced.
Yeah, he was a two-faced
asshole.
liar, and then like he ended up becoming the main villain and betraying everybody.
Yeah.
Which is so perfect, by the way. It just makes so much sense. He's kind of like the opposite of Spider-Man, in like Peter Parker has nothing. He's a broke student, but then he gets these powers and he decides to help people who are helpless.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Green Goblin or Norman Osborn has everything. He's rich. He's the opposite of like a broke college student. He owns a whole company, and then he gets powers, and then he uses those powers to help himself more.
As far as fan service stuff goes, there was a few moments like that.
The Spider-Man pointing at each other, that was an easy
Spider-Man pointing at each other, we knew it was going to happen, and it happened. And it was pretty funny.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't feel forced, to me at least. There was another moment where...
My back. Tobey Maguire saying my back.
That was it. You talked about this a lot, where you're like, what would the Spider-Man talk to each other about?
Oh, yeah. If you're a writer for a movie, and you're like, what can the three Spider-Men do, like, talk about, the only Spider-Man can talk about? Mm-hmm. And they did it perfectly, like, web swinging.
Yeah, it's like, my back hurts from all this web swinging. Yeah. Like, do you have a lower back thing? Yeah, I have a lower back thing.
Like, what villains did you fight?
Like, that shit was so funny, man. When Toby was like, the craziest villain I ever fought was a black goo from outer space.
I like being bad.
They felt ripped from their movies and not like, this is just an extension of Tom Holland's Peter Parker.
They didn't like Marvelize.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't MCU them, you know.
I mean, maybe like the tone of what they're in, their situation is different. Like, it's the Marvel MCU tone.
Mm-hmm.
But their personalities and characters were what they were in their original movies. Did you like the fake out they did when they stabbed Toby? And then
no, first of all, no.
I yelled. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Like, let's explain. So, Toby stops the glider from being stabbed into Norman, and then there's like the shot.
Tom Holland drops it, and then...
Yeah, there's a shot where Toby has his back to Norman Osborn, and then Norman stabs him in the back, and the entire 250 people in the audience just went, "No!"
I've never heard more like
Yeah.
concerned, just distraught audiences. If they did that, I would ask for my money back.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we were worried about, where it's like, oh, so the conclusion to the Raimi verse is he gets stabbed in the back
in the fucking random
Yeah.
MCU.
in the MCU, and there's a moment where Zendaya is falling, and then
Andrew Garfield
there's like a
catches her.
slow mo shot where he's running and he's freaking out, and then he jumps off and he saves MJ, and
That got a lot of claps in the theater.
it got a lot of
so.
claps in the theater because I heard a girl behind me go, "Aww."
That girl, by the
Oh my
way,
God,
she,
let's
she
talk about that
cried
girl.
so many times. When Aunt May died, she was bawling. I was like, is Tom Holland crying? That's like some loud crying. It was
You
the
would
girl.
think her real aunt died. Like she got a phone call. Should we talk about Jamie Foxx?
Oh, how they completely changed his character from
Yeah.
the Amazing Spider-Man movies, which I'm fine with. I
I'm
think
fine.
what they did was just like Jamie Foxx Electro and Amazing Spider-Man 2 sucks. Let's just let Jamie Foxx do his thing.
Yeah,
And I mean, it worked.
it worked.
I like Jamie Foxx as
Mhm.
Electro. Were there any Electro fans before watching No Way Home? Like people watch the Amazing Spider-Man 2 and are like, oh my god, I want to see more Electro.
No, I'm gonna say no. I saw an interview with Jamie Foxx where he's like, he was like subtly implying that his friends made fun of him for
Oh,
being
really?
blue.
The blue when we did it the first time, it was look man, I didn't care. I was just happy to be in this wonderful chorus, and it was like you said, it was sort of like 2 or 3 hours or whatever like that. But with this new is fly. The homies is like, okay, we get you now. You know, when I was blue, they still roll with me, but like, okay, you blue.
That shit was so funny. The idea of Jamie Foxx getting bullied by his friends for being in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I feel like in the whole movie, they kind of like subtly acknowledge that these Amazing Spider-Man movies were kind of bad.
Was it subtle?
No, it was pretty obvious. Like we talked about it, like they shit on Andrew Garfield. But
Yeah. There's like a whole dialogue between all the Spider-Man where
Andrew
Andrew
Garfield's
Garfield thinks he's lame. He's like, I know I'm a little bit lamer than you
like,
guys.
I fought a guy in a rhino machine. And then Tobey Maguire has to reassure him, like, you're amazing.
You are amazing. That was a little.
I love that scene.
That was yeah.
Was it too tongue in cheek?
I don't think it was tongue in cheek. It was like hand in mouth,
Oh.
hand fisted. You know. Andrew Garfield did a great job in this movie.
Oh yeah, he honestly stole the show whenever he appeared. And
That scene in Lola's house.
oh, in the grandma's house.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how the Filipinos clapped? So we live in an area filled with like there's a dense Filipino population,
Yeah.
and when the Lola showed up, people started clapping. Like they clapped louder than freaking Andrew Garfield
Yeah.
and Toby showing up in that
They
scene.
were like laughing at everything she said.
Zendaya threw Pandesal at Andrew Garfield.
Can we talk about how Tom Holland is now a civil rights activist after
Because
after dating
kissing
Zendaya?
and, like,
Oh my
oh,
god.
I saw like
so
an Instagram
funny.
post where it's like, I want to take a break from acting and start a family. Like, yeah, if you bag Zendaya, you're like, let's
Oh my god.
cash out now. You know what I mean?
You gotta get your
You-
bag.
You got the trilogy already. You got a
Secure the
Spider-Man
bag,
trilogy.
yeah. You know what's funny? I saw another headline about how every single MJ Peter
Or like love interest.
they have dated.
Oh yeah,
Like Kirsten Dunst, Toby.
Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, I think they're still together.
No, I think they.
Really?
Emma Stone has a whole other family.
Huh?
What did you think of the fight scene when they went to Coney Island and then Spider-Man had to fight Joe Byron?
What do you want to tell Joe Byron right now? What's up, baby?
Joe Byron. What did you think of Doctor Strange?
Didn't Stan Lee and Steve Ditko also create Doctor Strange? I like their little relationship between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man because it kind of in the metatextual nerdy shit, like parallels Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's relationship. Steve Ditko is more like Doctor Strange, who's like he's just not open and doesn't
Okay.
trust people. He hates like the plucky little Spider-Man,
Yeah.
who is more like Stan Lee.
Oh, I see what you're
And
saying.
then
Yeah.
it's just cool that I don't know. For me, when they reconciled at the end of the movie, I was like, oh, that's a little cool.
I've always said that the Doctor Strange movie was like a little weak. It's on the same level as probably Ant-Man
I don't even remember
or
watching
Captain Marvel.
Doctor Strange.
You said something so funny where you said lately, not even lately, for a while, everything Marvel just feels like a trailer for something else. And the Doctor Strange movie feels like that to me. where you're watching it and you're like, the point of this movie is not the movie. The point of this movie is to bring him into the Avengers and subsequent films.
Yeah, it's honestly why I kind of not a big fan of the Marvel shows, because it just feels like,
Right, the Marvel shows are the worst perpetrators of that.
get ready for this cool thing. You're gonna see Sam Wilson, Captain America, in a new movie later, and you're like,
In a year.
can we just get a good story now?
Yeah. There are some roles for actors where you're like, this is a little too believable. It feels like he's actually like that.
Oh, Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, I
He's
know
like
he's
actually an asshole.
he seems like a nice guy, like in interviews, but I get the vibe that he's a little pretentious and a little bit Doctor Strangey. You know, he's one of those actors that does Shakespeare.
Immediately, he's a douchebag because of that.
No, not immediately, but it's like you don't have to check all the boxes of a psychopath to be a psychopath.
Oh, okay.
One of the boxes for pretentious actors is Shakespearean actor.
I read a tweet. It's like, if Wong is in the movie, you know it's gonna be a good movie.
Wong gives me like Hannibal Buress vibes,
Uh,
where he shows up and he doesn't care about what he's in.
oh, dude, Hannibal Buress calling out Spider-Man.
Oh my
like,
God.
Mysterio was right.
Hannibal Buress is very famous for outing Bill Cosby, and like the life imitates art, art imitates life thing was amazing. One of the plot holes that we talked about was, first of all, Peter Parker bests Doctor Strange in the Mirrorverse, and I thought that was so whack. I could not believe that. Like the fact that Peter Parker uses the power of math to figure out the mirror dimension and then traps him in the webs and then ditches him there. But Doctor Strange has no ability to get himself out or fight Peter Parker. They nerfed him a little bit, I found. It's just really hard for me to believe that Spider-Man would best Doctor Strange.
Well, if they didn't do that,
there'd be no
we
movie.
wouldn't have a movie.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Let's talk about the ending of the movie.
Oh yeah.
How everybody's minds are erased and nobody knows who Peter Parker is.
I like how it kind of parallels the ending of Spider-Man 1. He tells Mary Jane he can't be with her because like, I just can't because I'm Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be too dangerous. And the same thing happens where he's going to tell Zendaya about all the memory wipe, but then he decides not to because he sees like she has like a little battle damage near her forehead.
Yeah.
So he decides, I'm just going to go out this alone.
And she just got into college too.
Yeah.
Which is something that she couldn't get into. She couldn't get into college because everybody knew that she was dating Peter Parker, and there was like all this controversy surrounding that. I loved that because my favorite part of Spider-Man is that the idea of great power comes great responsibility, right? So it sucks being Spider-Man.
That's one thing
That's not a good thing.
That's one thing that was missing from the Tom Holland movies that they reintroduce in No Way Home and do it perfectly. Like Spider-Man's life is really tragic, even though he's like a fun-loving, plucky, like
Friendly
quippy,
neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. His life sucks.
Yeah.
And being Spider-Man, there's like a heavy price to pay.
Yeah, he loses everything at the end of the movie. Like just to do the right thing, which was to save all the villains and to make everybody forget so that they could fix reality.
Yeah.
The most comic book book
It's so
plot.
like. Also, my cynical brain kept going. This is how they introduced Tom Holland to the shitty Sonyverse, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's so many moments where I was like, oh, this is where they fuck it up.
Yeah, because that would be the clean slate that Sony could have, right? They're like,
Yeah.
we don't have to hire Ned, we don't have to hire Zendaya,
Yeah.
we don't have to hire Aunt May or any of the Marvel people because nobody knows who he is. So we just get Peter Parker in his apartment all alone, and there's just like the sky's the limit. They can go anywhere. Let's talk about Venom.
Oh, like Eddie Brock showing up at the end.
Yeah, Tom Hardy shows up in the post-credit scene.
Oh, can we just talk about how we hate the Venom movies real quick?
Okay.
This is important. Like,
Sidebar. You just stumbled into a Venom and Venom 2 review inside our Spider-Man review real quick.
so Venom sucked, right?
And Venom 2 sucked.
Oh, I didn't see Venom 2.
If you saw Venom 1, you saw Venom 2.
Okay.
Thank you for joining our
Yeah, and
review in a review. Oh my god. I was so scared he was going to be the MCU Venom.
don't do that. Don't do that, please.
Let's explain how. So when Doctor Strange does the spell, he brings in all the people who know who Peter Parker is. Which,
How does Venom know?
I know. I was about to
How
say.
does Venom know?
Doctor Strange's explanation was that when you did the spell, they basically did it in reverse. So instead of erasing everyone's brain of Peter Parker, it started bringing in people who know Peter Parker from other universes. That's what Doctor Strange says himself. Venom does not know who Peter Parker is, but he got sucked in from the Sonyverse.
Yeah, but neither did Electro.
No, he knows Andrew Garfield, Peter Parker.
I don't think so. I remember watching the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Electro?
Yeah, the Electro. Whatever.
Oh
it's
wait,
stupid.
you're right.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that he's Peter Parker.
This movie
he just,
sucks.
He just knows he's Spider-Man.
This movie fucking sucks.
Oh wait, does he say Spider-Man or Peter Parker? Anyways, if he said Spider-Man or Peter Parker, it still wouldn't make sense.
It doesn't apply to Venom.
It doesn't apply to Venom. Spider-Man
So he
doesn't
shouldn't be
exist.
there.
He shouldn't be there. And then at the end of the movie, Doctor Strange sends everybody back, and there's a stupid scene where he's drunk at a bar. It's not funny. I can't believe that they did an MCU scene. And I was like, maybe the MCU could save Venom. No, it's irredeemable. It's not funny ever. Anyways, he gets sent back to his universe, but there's a little drop
Of the symbiote.
of the symbiote,
Yeah.
which I thought about later. Why? Why didn't all of it go?
That's so true, yeah. That
Why
makes
a
no
little
sense.
drop? Because then there wouldn't be a movie, Ronnie.
There wouldn't be a movie.
There wouldn't be a movie.
Also, this is why I'm saying this. We got more than we deserved from this movie, because like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, where's the catch? Is Venom gonna show up? Is Tom Holland this Sonyverse? No, none of that. Venom's not in the movie. He's not gonna be in any more movies.
Yeah, you got Toby, you got Andrew.
And Tom Holland is like now officially like the Spider-Man.
There was one thing that we talked about before we even watched the movie, which was our predictions of if Toby and Andrew were in it, what are their roles going to be?
Oh yeah, we were like, because you thought it would just be like some 5-minute cameo.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be like hopping around the multiverse or something, and then he's going to see him, and then he's going to give him like the Uncle Ben speech or something like that. Like just 5 minutes.
Ideally, I would have wanted like they're in it for a significant chunk, but my brain kept going, no, there's no way they're not gonna be in it.
Dude, I explained this to you so many times that I knew they were going to be in it. Like deep down inside, I knew they were going to be in it.
in your heart, you're like,
In my heart,
they're
I
in
knew.
it.
I couldn't let myself believe that they were going to be a significant role. I was completely floored. They were with it. They were in the movie from like the midway point. They were in the final battle together.
They had like little arcs for their characters too.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. That we got, like you said, we got way more than we deserved.
Like Toby was able to reconcile with Doc Ock. Andrew was able to.
He saves MJ.
He redeemed himself by saving MJ.
Yeah, and he redeems Max too.
Yeah.
He has a little character moment.
And then they.
Oh wait, we were talking about that where Electro tells the Peter Parker.
Oh, he thinks he's black.
He thought he was black. He's like, oh, you wear a mask. You live in Queens, right?
Yeah.
You live in Queens. You
Yeah,
help
poor
the poor
people.
people. I thought you were black. Oh wait, and then he says, I don't know. Maybe there's a black Spider-Man somewhere out there.
While he looks at the camera.
He winks. So maybe we get Miles Morales Spider-Man.
That'd be pretty hype. I feel like they did everything they could do
I mean, listen.
with Peter Parker.
Did they? You could have said that in like 2002. You know what I mean? What could you do with Peter Parker? You can't just make another Spider-Man movie. Yes, you can.
Yeah, Spider-Man's one of those characters you can just go on forever.
Yeah.
You know what else? Like, having Toby and Andrew in the movie did not take away from Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
No, it did not.
It helped. They didn't take over the movie.
So Aunt May dies, and then they talk to him about how it was their fault that Uncle Ben died in their movies. Andrew Garfield even talks about how he wasn't able to save Gwen Stacy. Or you have this like heart-to-heart moment with all the Spider-Man, just adding on to the narrative of this movie.
Yeah, it's not like they derailed the plot
Yeah.
for, oh, here's what Toby and Andrew have been doing.
Dude, when all three Spider-Man
That was
hug,
like therapy. I don't know.
that was a magical moment. It's like a culmination of 20 years of us watching movies in a single scene.
'Cause I don't know how old you guys are, but we saw the Toby movies when we were kids, and
Yeah.
then the Andrew Garfield movies when we were like
Teenagers.
and now we have
Tom Holland
and
as
they're, like,
adults.
as adults.
It was a beautiful movie.
What could they do next? What could they do next?
What could they do next?
What do you even do to top this? Would you want to see Toby and Andrew back?
Yeah, of course. But in my head, yes, but I feel like it wouldn't work as a movie.
I've seen people like after the reaction to this movie, like we should get The Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Oh.
And I just want to say, do you guys remember The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2? Because just watch those again.
That's so funny.
So, what's your MCU ranking?
Oh, my MCU ranking? This is where it sits on the MCU rank right here. Between this movie and this movie, this is where it sits.
Honestly, I want to put it above Endgame. 'Cause for me, I feel like No Way Home was like way better. Like it felt more more personal and more emotional than Endgame did. And I think it's because we focused on one main guy. Endgame, there were multiple storylines going on at the same time.
It's too hard.
And sometimes the pacing, I feel like the pacing for No Way Home is way better than in here than in Endgame. But I could see why Endgame is better for people.
It's just hard. It's just too difficult to have that conversation. Please go watch Spider-Man No Way Home. and support it as much as you can. Go follow Tom Holland on
Give more
Instagram.
money to the Disney Corporation as they monopolize all our childhood artifacts.
Yeah.
And buy every movie studio.
Buy all the Spider-Man plushies and T-shirts.
Are we planning to watch that small indie film? Fuck that. One more ticket to No Way Home, please.
One more ticket to No Way Home at the multiplex. Don't go to your local art house theater. Just go see No Way Home.
Oh, did you cash the check from Disney Corporation yet? Because I'm cashing it like today. Don't put this in the recording.